It was a quiet morning, and the city was just waking up. The streets were slowly filling with people hurrying to their jobs, and the air carried the faint scent of fresh bread and coffee from the nearby bakery. In the middle of this ordinary morning, K2 people were about to have an encounter that would change everything. She was sitting in a small, cozy coffee shop, a notebook open in front of her, scribbling down thoughts and ideas. Her mind was busy with work, but she often paused to watch the world outside through the large glass windows. There was a certain calmness about her, a quiet confidence that came from years of learning to rely on herself. She didn't notice much, lost in her own thoughts, but there was a softness in her eyes that made anyone who looked at her feel at ease. He walked past the coffee shop several times that morning. At first, he didn't notice her. He was distracted, thinking about the day ahead. The meetings, the deadlines, the small tasks that piled up like bricks in his mind. But on the fourth time, something made him glance inside. And then he saw her. She was completely absorbed in her writing, the pen moving steadily across the paper, her eyes occasionally glancing out the window, taking in the scene of the bustling street. He couldn't explain it, but he felt a pull, a strange sense of curiosity and admiration. The bell above the coffee shop door jingled, and he walked in, ordering a coffee without really looking at the menu. He found a spot near her, a small table in the corner where he could sit quietly. He didn't plan to stare or interrupt, but somehow he couldn't help sneaking glances at her every few moments. There was something about the way she concentrated, the way her hair fell softly around her face, that made him pause and take a deep breath. She noticed him finally. Though she didn't look directly at him at first, something in the movement of the door, the sound of the bell, caught her attention. She glanced up and their eyes met for the briefest moment. It was quick, almost accidental, but it left a flutter in her chest, a small spark she couldn't ignore. She looked away, pretending to focus on her notebook. But she could feel him there, a quiet presence that was hard to ignore. He smiled slightly, not in a showy way, but gently, as if acknowledging a secret connection. She felt it, a warmth spreading through her, and for a moment, the rest of the world faded. The noise of the street, the chatter of the people, even the clinking of cups in the coffee shop, it all seemed to disappear. Leaving just the two of them in that quiet space, neither of them spoke at first. It wasn't necessary. There was a rhythm to their silence, a mutual understanding that this moment was unusual, special even. He watched her write, curious about what filled her mind. She felt a strange urge to look at him, to wonder who he was and what he thought as he sat there, sipping his coffee. Eventually, he broke the silence. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, pointing to the chair opposite him. She looked up, slightly startled, and shook her head. "No, it's free." He sat down carefully, placing his coffee on the table, trying not to disturb the quiet energy of the room. They exchanged small smiles, and the conversation began naturally, like a gentle stream flowing without effort. He asked her about her notebook, curious about what she was writing. She hesitated at first, unsure if she should share, but something in his eyes, kindness, interest, sincerity, made her open up. "It's just some thoughts," she said softly. "Nothing important." He nodded, but his interest didn't fade. "Sometimes the little things are the most important," he said. "They tell us more about who we are than we realize." They talked about simple things at first, the weather, the city, small observations about the people passing by the window, but slowly the conversation deepened. They shared stories from their lives, small moments that had shaped them, dreams they hadn't told anyone. There was laughter, a few quiet moments of reflection, and the kind of comfort that comes when two people unexpectedly understand each other. Time passed without them noticing. The morning sun shifted, casting warm light across the table, and the coffee shop became busier, but neither of them cared. They were caught in a bubble of their own making, a space where the world outside didn't matter. Every glance, every smile, every subtle movement of their hands felt significant. As if the universe had conspired to bring them together, eventually reality crept back in. She looked at her watch and realized she'd been there for over an hour. Her heart sank slightly. She didn't want the moment to end, but she also had responsibilities, things she couldn't ignore. He noticed the change in her expression and felt a similar reluctance. Neither of them wanted to break the connection, yet both knew the moment was fleeting as they stood to leave. He hesitated, unsure how to ask for a way to see her again. She seemed equally unsure. The words hovered in the air, unspoken but understood. There was a gentle tension, a delicate balance between courage and hesitation. He finally said, "Maybe we'll run into each other again." She smiled, a mix of hope and uncertainty. "Maybe we will." They left the coffee shop separately, stepping back into the rhythm of the city, the noise and movement pulling them in different directions. But the encounter lingered, a quiet echo in their minds that refused to fade. She thought about his smile, the kindness in his eyes, the way he listened. He thought about her laughter, the way she moved, the unexpected depth in her quiet demeanor. The rest of the day passed in a blur. She went about her tasks, but her thoughts kept drifting back to him. He found himself replaying their conversation, wondering what she was doing, hoping their paths might cross again. There was no guarantee, but the memory of that morning had planted a seed of curiosity, a desire to see where it might grow. That evening, as the city lights flickered on and the streets filled with people returning home, both of them paused for a moment. They couldn't know what the future held, but they could feel the subtle shift that had happened. The start of something that might change their lives in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The world felt a little brighter, a little more full of possibility. Because of that chance encounter and the quiet of her apartment, she opened her notebook again, not to write work tasks, but to capture the feeling of the morning. She wrote about the stranger in the coffee shop, the way the light fell on the table, the conversation that had felt like it belonged to another world. Each word was a reminder that even in ordinary days, something extraordinary could happen. He, too, sat at his desk, reflecting on the day. He didn't write, but he replayed the moment in his mind, noticing the small details he hadn't paid attention to before: the tilt of her head, the sound of her laughter, the warmth that seemed to radiate from her presence. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time, a gentle tug at his heart that left him both exhilarated and nervous. That night, sleep came slowly for both of them. Their dreams were filled with fragments of the morning, the quiet coffee shop, the soft murmur of their voices, the smiles exchanged across the table. It was a night of reflection, of subtle wonder, a night where possibilities seemed endless, and the world, despite its chaos, felt aligned in a small, perfect way. By the time the next morning arrived, both of them carried a sense of anticipation. The memory of the first encounter had transformed something within them. There was hope, yes, but also a curiosity, a gentle excitement about what might come. Neither of them knew if they would meet again, but they both felt certain of one thing: that morning had changed them, even in the smallest ways. And so, life went on. The city moved, people hurried, and the routines continued. But in the quiet corners of their minds, the memory of that first encounter lingered like a soft melody. It was the beginning of something new, fragile yet promising. A story that had started without warning, but would grow in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Every glance, every smile, every unspoken word had set a chain of moments into motion. Moments that would, in time, reveal the beauty and complexity of a connection neither had expected but both would cherish. The following morning, the city awoke with the usual energy. The streets were busy with people rushing to their destinations, but amidst the familiar chaos, both of them carried memories of the previous day. The coffee shop encounter had left a mark, small but undeniable. Shaping their thoughts as they moved through their routines, she walked to work with a lighter step than usual. Her thoughts drifted to the stranger in the coffee shop, recalling the warmth in his eyes, the easy flow of their conversation, and the small smiles they had shared. She couldn't explain why it had felt so meaningful, but she found herself hoping to see him again. Each step she took seemed to echo with possibilities. Each sound of the city a gentle reminder of that unexpected connection. He, too, carried the memory with him. As he went about his work, he found himself distracted, replaying moments in his mind. The way she had laughed at a small joke, the way she had concentrated on her notebook, the subtle kindness that seemed to radiate from her presence at all, lingered in his thoughts. He wondered if she thought of him too, if she remembered the same small details that had impressed him so much. The day passed slowly. Every phone notification, every passing stranger, seemed to bring a flicker of hope that perhaps by chance they might meet again. And in a city of millions, that hope felt fragile but persistent. Later that afternoon, a twist of fate brought them to the same park. Though neither knew the other would be there, she had decided to take a short walk after work to clear her mind, letting the calm of the greenery balance the busy day. He had chosen the same park to pause from the city's noise, to find a moment of peace. She was sitting on a bench watching children play, ducks glide across the pond, and the sun cast a warm glow across the path. He noticed her from a distance, his heart skipping a beat. There she was, exactly as he remembered, yet somehow more vivid in the open air. The sunlight catching her hair and making it shimmer, she saw him almost at the same moment. Their eyes met again, and there was a moment of recognition, a spark of joy that both felt immediately. Neither hesitated this time. He walked toward her, a smile spreading across his face, and she stood to greet him, her own smile bright and genuine. "Hello," he said softly, as if speaking louder might break the delicate magic of the moment. "Hi," she replied, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The familiarity of the connection was comforting, yet new enough to make her heart flutter. They started walking along the path together, conversation flowing as naturally as it had in the coffee shop. They spoke about their favorite places in the city, memories from childhood, little things that brought them joy. There was laughter and thoughtful pauses, moments where words were unnecessary because the presence of the other was enough. As they walked, she shared a story about a small local bookstore she loved, a place she often visited for inspiration. He listened intently, genuinely interested, asking questions that showed he cared about more than just the story itself. He shared his own experiences, places that held meaning for him, people who had influenced his life. Each revelation deepened the connection, showing that beneath the ordinary surface of their days, there was a resonance, a shared understanding of what mattered. The park seemed to shrink around them. The noise of traffic, the voices of other visitors, even the distant hum of the city all faded into the background. It was as if they existed in a bubble, a world created by chance and nurtured by curiosity and mutual respect. Every glance, every gesture, every laugh felt significant, as though the universe had carved out this moment specifically for them. Eventually, they found a quiet spot under a large tree. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the ground. They sat, continuing their conversation, speaking about hopes and dreams, fears and uncertainties. It was a dialogue that revealed not just their personalities, but their vulnerabilities, the parts of themselves they didn't often share with anyone. She told him about her struggles at work, the doubts that sometimes crept in, and the pressure she felt to balance ambition with personal happiness. He nodded, sharing his own challenges, the moments when he had felt uncertain about the path he was on, the mistakes he had made, and the lessons he had learned. They spoke honestly, without pretense, and in that honesty, a deeper bond formed. Hours passed without either noticing. The sun began its descent, casting longer shadows across the park, and the air turned cooler. Yet neither felt the need to leave. There was a sense of timelessness, a feeling that these hours mattered more than the rest of the day. The ordinary world could wait, because in this shared space, something extraordinary was unfolding. As the sky changed colors, blending pinks and oranges, they realized that the day was drawing to a close. She looked at him, a mix of happiness and reluctance in her eyes. "I didn't want today to end," she said softly. He smiled, understanding completely. "Neither did I," he replied, "but maybe it's just the beginning. There will be other days, other moments." They exchanged contact information this time, a small, practical step that felt monumental. There was relief in the certainty that they could connect again, and yet a thrill in the anticipation of what was to come. It was a delicate balance of hope and realism, a recognition that life could be unpredictable, but sometimes it allowed for serendipity. When they finally parted, There was no awkwardness, only a quiet understanding. Each walked away, hearts lighter, spirits lifted. The memory of the park, the conversation, the laughter, they carried it with them as they returned to their respective lives. The city continued its rhythm, unaware of the significance of the day. But for them, the world had shifted slightly, becoming a place of potential, of promise. That night, both reflected on the day with a sense of wonder. She wrote in her notebook again, capturing not just the events but the emotions, the nuances that made the day feel extraordinary. He sat quietly, thinking, letting the feelings settle. Acknowledging the rare connection he had found, they fell asleep with the thought of each other lingering in their minds, a gentle comfort that made the night feel warmer. Dreams were filled with fragments of conversation, laughter, and the simple joy of shared moments. The day had been ordinary in many ways, yet it had become unforgettable, the kind of memory that stays with a person, shaping their outlook and filling them with quiet hope. The next morning, both awoke with a sense of anticipation. They didn't know what would happen next, but they felt ready to explore the connection further. The encounter had sparked something inside them, a curiosity, a desire to see where this new relationship could lead. There was no rush, no pressure, just a gentle unfolding. A story that was beginning to write itself, and so life continued. With work and responsibilities and the usual chaos of the city, but now with an added layer of excitement. Each day was touched by the possibility of meeting again, by the thought of shared laughter and conversation. The memory of the park lingered, a reminder that sometimes the most meaningful moments happen unexpectedly, and that a single day can leave an imprint that changes everything. Days passed, and the memory of the park lingered for both of them, like a gentle song that played quietly in the background of their lives. Work and responsibilities demanded their attention, but each found themselves thinking about the other at unexpected moments. The world felt a little brighter, a little softer, simply because of the connection that had begun. She went about her daily routine, yet her thoughts kept drifting back to him. Every message on her phone made her heart skip. Every small sound or passing stranger reminded her of the morning conversations and the park walk. She found herself smiling at little things, remembering jokes, words, and glances that had carried more meaning than either of them expected. Even mundane moments felt alive with the possibility that he might be thinking of her too. He felt the same way. Meetings and deadlines blurred into the background as he replayed the moments they had shared. Every smile, every word, every gesture came alive in his mind. He found himself hoping to see her again, wondering about the small details of her life, curious about her thoughts and feelings. There was a quiet tension, an ache that was sweet in its anticipation, and yet bittersweet in its uncertainty. Finally, a weekend arrived. Both were free from the responsibilities of the week, and by coincidence, they found themselves walking near a small cafe they had once mentioned to each other. The moment was accidental, but in that city of millions, the coincidence felt meaningful, almost like fate nudging them toward each other. Their eyes met, and in an instant, everything fell into place. The hesitation that had lingered disappeared. They walked toward each other with familiar smiles, and the air between them carried warmth and anticipation. There was no need for awkward introductions. No need to explain why they were there. They simply fit together in that moment. They decided to sit by the cafe window, watching the world pass by while talking about their week. She shared small victories and challenges from work, the little moments that made her day both difficult and rewarding. He listened carefully, genuinely interested, asking thoughtful questions that showed he remembered the smallest details about her life. She felt seen, truly seen, in a way she hadn't in a long time. He spoke about his own week, the ups and downs, the frustrations, and small joys. She listened, absorbing his words, noting the subtle emotions in his expressions. There was a depth to their connection now, something beyond the surface conversation, a shared understanding that went deeper than words. They could feel each other's presence, the rhythm of thoughts and feelings intertwining effortlessly. They laughed together, sometimes quietly, sometimes openly, at things only they found amusing. They shared memories of their past, moments that shaped them, and dreams for the future. The hopes that still carried uncertainty, but also promise. It was in these exchanges that the bonds strengthened, each story revealing layers of who they were, who they had been, and who they might become together. As the afternoon sunlight faded, they took a walk along a nearby street, the city alive around them, yet they felt insulated in their own bubble. The ordinary sights, the shops, the people, the distant hum of traffic seemed to fade as their attention centered solely on each other. Small touches, brushing hands accidentally, shared glances. The warmth of a smile, they all carried meaning and significance that neither could ignore yet. And as the day progressed, reality began to intrude. They talked about commitments, obligations, and responsibilities that could complicate their growing closeness. There were subtle hints of hesitation, an acknowledgement that life was rarely as simple as they wished it to be. Still, they faced these challenges together, each showing patience, understanding, and a willingness to navigate the complexities without losing the delicate connection they had built. She confided in him about a personal challenge she was dealing with, a family matter that required her attention and emotional energy. He listened, offering gentle support without overstepping, understanding that sometimes the most important thing was simply being present. His sincerity and empathy deepened her trust, reinforcing the sense of safety and warmth she felt in his company. He, in turn, shared a struggle from his past, a moment that had left a mark and shaped how he approached life. Her reaction was not judgment, but curiosity and care, and in that moment, a quiet intimacy was formed. They realized that sharing vulnerabilities was not a risk, but a bridge to a stronger connection. Evenings arrived. They found themselves reluctantly parting ways, the city lights casting long shadows across the streets. Each returned to their home carrying the weight of longing and anticipation. They thought of each other, replaying every detail of the day, the laughter, the words, the fleeting touches. There was a sweetness in the ache, a hopefulness in the uncertainty, and a recognition that this bond was growing in ways they hadn't expected. During the nights, dreams were filled with fragments of shared moments. Sometimes they imagined future encounters, moments of laughter, quiet evenings, and walks through familiar streets. The imagination became a sanctuary, a place where the bond could continue to grow, unrestrained by time or distance. The memory of each encounter became a source of comfort and inspiration. Days rolled into weeks, and with each new meeting, the connection strengthened. They began to discover shared interests they hadn't mentioned before: books, music, art, simple joys of life that brought them together. They explored new places in the city, experiencing small adventures that, though ordinary to an outside observer, felt extraordinary to them because they were together. There were moments of tension too, small misunderstandings and differences in perspective. Yet, rather than pushing them apart, these moments taught patience and communication. They learned to listen without judgment, to express feelings honestly, yet gently, and to appreciate the unique qualities that each brought into the relationship. Every challenge they faced together became another thread in the fabric of their growing bond. They began to talk about the future, not in grandiose terms, but in the quiet contemplation of shared experiences. They wondered what the coming months might hold, what dreams could be realized together, and how they could support each other in the journey of life. It was a time of gentle exploration, where curiosity and affection blended seamlessly. One afternoon, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow across the city, they found themselves sitting on a quiet bench by the river. The water reflected the colors of the sky, and the gentle breeze carried a sense of calm and possibility. They talked about their childhood memories, the people who had influenced them, and the lessons they had learned along the way. There was a comfort in sharing, a joy in discovering common ground, and a thrill in uncovering differences that intrigued rather than divided. The day ended, as days often did, with a reluctant goodbye, yet the parting was softened by the knowledge that this bond was growing, that the connection was strong enough to carry them through the distance between meetings. Each returned home with a sense of fulfillment, a warmth that lingered long after the streets had emptied and the city had quieted. They began to notice how the connection had started influencing other aspects of their lives. There was a renewed appreciation for simple moments, a greater patience with challenges, and a desire to seek joy in small, everyday experiences. The presence of the other acted as a quiet reminder of the value of connection, empathy, and shared understanding. Even in the quiet moments, when they were apart, the memory of each other lingered. A familiar expression, a phrase from a conversation, a song that reminded them of the day they found traces of each other and the world around them. It was a subtle magic, the kind that doesn't demand recognition but leaves a gentle, persistent imprint on the heart. As the weeks continued, the bond deepened, yet neither rushed it. There was a careful, deliberate unfolding, a recognition that relationships built on understanding, trust, and shared moments grow stronger over time. Each encounter, each conversation, each shared smile became another layer of intimacy, quietly shaping their lives and their hearts. Through all of this, there was a shared acknowledgement that life was unpredictable, that circumstances could change. But the moments they had shared were real, meaningful, and transformative. They learned to cherish the present, to appreciate the subtle joys of connection, and to embrace the vulnerability that made their relationship authentic and deeply human. The days grew warmer as spring settled in, bringing with it a sense of renewal. The city seemed more alive, with flowers beginning to bloom along the streets and sunlight reflecting off the windows of tall buildings. Both of them felt the season, in a subtle way, carrying an extra sense of optimism as they moved through their days, their thoughts often returning to the other. She woke up one morning with a feeling she couldn't ignore. Something about the week ahead seemed different, brighter, more open to possibility. As she prepared for work, she reflected on the past few weeks at the coffee shop, the park, the quiet walks, and the shared conversations. Each memory carried a warmth that lingered long after the moment had passed. She felt a sense of anticipation, wondering what the day might bring. He, too, started the day with a renewed energy. The memory of her smile, her laughter, and the way she spoke with genuine curiosity replayed in his mind. The thought of seeing her again filled him with motivation, a quiet excitement that made the morning feel lighter. Even small tasks seemed more manageable with the hope of spending time with her later. By chance, they found themselves at a weekend farmers market, the kind where vendors offered fresh produce, handmade crafts, and the aroma of baked goods filled the air. Neither had planned to meet there, but fate had a gentle way of guiding them. As they navigated the colorful stalls, their eyes met, and a shared smile confirmed the delight of the unexpected encounter. They decided to explore the market together, moving from stall to stall, tasting fresh fruits, sampling pastries, and chatting with vendors. Each small interaction became a shared experience, filled with laughter and curiosity. They discovered mutual favorites, exchanged opinions on flavors, and playfully debated over small details. The simplicity of the moment, combined with the joy of being together, strengthened their bond in a way that felt effortless. Walking through the market, they found a small cafe tucked away in a quiet corner. Interior was cozy, with soft lighting and wooden tables, offering a peaceful escape from the bustling market outside. They chose a table by the window and ordered warm drinks, settling into the comfort of conversation once again. They talked about their childhood dreams and the experiences that shaped them, sharing stories that revealed their values, fears, and hopes. She spoke about her desire to make a positive impact in her work, the moments that left her inspired, and the challenges that tested her patience. He listened intently, asking questions that showed he remembered even the smallest details from their previous conversations. He shared his own experiences, reflecting on lessons learned, obstacles overcome, and the importance of finding balance between ambition and personal fulfillment. She found comfort in his honesty and admired his resilience, sensing the depth of character beneath the casual demeanor. There was a quiet understanding between them, shared respect for each other's journey and the choices that brought them to this point. The afternoon slipped by unnoticed, filled with laughter, quiet reflection, and the kind of conversation that felt natural and unforced. They spoke about books they loved, music that moved them, and moments in life that left lasting impressions. Each exchange revealed new facets of their personalities, creating a tapestry of connection woven from genuine interest and mutual admiration. As the sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the streets, they took a leisurely walk through a nearby park. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the air carried the fresh scent of blooming flowers. They walked side by side, occasionally brushing hands, sharing smiles, and exchanging glances that spoke volumes without words. The comfort of presence, the ease of companionship, and the subtle intimacy of these moments deepened the emotional connection between them. They found a quiet bench by a small pond, where ducks glided gracefully across the water. Sitting there, they reflected on their journey so far, acknowledging the obstacles they had faced and the ways in which those challenges had strengthened their bond. There was a sense of accomplishment, not in grand achievements, but in the shared understanding and trust that had developed between them. He reached for her hand gently, a simple gesture that carried profound meaning. She responded without hesitation, intertwining her fingers with his, feeling the warmth and reassurance that came with physical touch. In that moment, there was no need for words. The connection was expressed fully through presence and the quiet energy shared between them. They talked about hopes for the future, not with pressure or expectation, but with curiosity and openness. They considered possibilities, dreams, and the paths they might take together, understanding that the journey was just as important as any destination. The conversation was filled with optimism and respect, each idea exchanged with care and consideration for the other's feelings. As the evening approached, they noticed the sky changing colors, blending shades of orange, pink, and purple. The beauty of the moment mirrored the emotions they felt, a quiet reminder that life often presented extraordinary experiences in the midst of ordinary days. They sat in silence for a while, absorbing the scene, allowing the shared tranquility to settle into their hearts. Eventually, the need to return home drew them apart, but the farewell was gentle and unhurried. They exchanged soft smiles, a promise of more shared moments, and a quiet acknowledgement of the bond that had grown stronger with each encounter. Walking away, each carried a sense of fulfillment, gratitude, and excitement for what was yet to come. That night, reflections of the day filled their thoughts. She wrote in her notebook, capturing not just events, but the feelings that had accompanied them, the warmth, the laughter, the quiet intimacy. He thought quietly about the moments they had shared, the subtle gestures, and the depth of connection that seemed to grow with each meeting. The reflection created a sense of calm, a reassurance that this bond was genuine and meaningful. In the days that followed, they continued to build their connection with careful, deliberate attention. They communicated through messages, sharing thoughts, small jokes, and reflections on the day. Each interaction reinforced the trust and intimacy that had developed, creating a sense of continuity even when they were apart. The presence of the other became a source of comfort, encouragement, and joy, affecting their outlook on life in subtle but significant ways. They began to notice how their growing bond influenced other aspects of their lives. There was more patience, a greater appreciation for small moments, and an increased awareness of the beauty in everyday experiences. They supported each other in challenges, celebrated successes, and shared laughter in ways that strengthened the emotional connection. The relationship became a source of inspiration, motivating them to approach life with curiosity, empathy, and openness. During quiet moments, they reflected on the depth of the bond, the trust, and the mutual understanding that had formed. They realized that what they shared was not merely casual or superficial, but rooted in genuine care, respect, and emotional resonance. The acknowledgement of vulnerabilities, the shared experiences, and the willingness to be present with each other created a foundation that felt solid, yet flexible, capable of growing over time as weeks passed. The bond continued to deepen. They explored new places together, experienced small adventures, and discovered shared interests that enriched their connection. Each encounter, each conversation, each shared smile added layers to their relationship, creating a tapestry of moments that were both ordinary and extraordinary. The ordinary events of life were transformed by the presence of the other. Creating a sense of magic in the mundane, they began to consider the meaning of their connection more deeply. Contemplating how it fit into the broader context of their lives, there was a sense of clarity, an understanding that this relationship was rare, valuable, and worth nurturing. They approached each interaction with intentionality, mindfulness, and care, recognizing that the quality of attention and presence was as important as the events themselves. One afternoon, they sat in a quiet garden, surrounded by flowers in full bloom. The scent of petals filled the air, and the gentle rustle of leaves created a peaceful backdrop. They spoke about life, love, and the ways in which relationships shaped them. The conversation was deep, yet light, filled with honesty, reflection, and the joy of discovering shared values and aspirations. As the day turned to evening, they lingered in the garden, reluctant to leave. The connection had grown beyond simple attraction or curiosity. It was a bond of understanding, trust, and emotional resonance. They knew that challenges would arise, but they felt confident in their ability to navigate them together, drawing strength from the bond they had cultivated when they finally parted. There was no need for grand declarations or promises. The presence of trust, understanding, and affection was enough. Each returned home with a sense of contentment, a quiet joy that permeated daily life. The memory of the day, the shared moments, and the emotional depth of their bond provided a sense of stability and hope. That night, both reflected on the journey so far. She added notes to her journal, capturing the emotions, the nuances, and the subtle beauty of the day. He reflected quietly, acknowledging the impact of the relationship on his perspective and mindset. There was a sense of gratitude, wonder, and anticipation for the future. Knowing that the bond would continue to grow and evolve, life continued with its usual rhythm. But the relationship added a layer of richness and meaning. Each encounter, conversation, and shared moment reinforced the connection, creating a sense of continuity, hope, and emotional fulfillment. The ordinary became extraordinary through the lens of connection, empathy, and presence. Shaping their experiences and hearts in profound ways, the days grew longer as summer approached, bringing a warmth to the city that mirrored the warmth in their hearts. Both of them felt the changing season, not just in the weather, but in the growth of their relationship. Their connection had matured into something deep and meaningful, rooted in trust, understanding, and shared experiences. It was no longer just the excitement of discovery. It had become a source of comfort and inspiration. They began the day with a quiet morning walk along the riverbank. The sunlight shimmered on the water, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers. The city's usual noise seemed distant, replaced by the soothing sounds of nature and the calm energy of being together. Their conversation flowed easily, touching on hopes, reflections, and small details about their lives that revealed more about who they truly were. She spoke about her aspirations, the projects she wanted to pursue, and the small goals that motivated her each day. He listened carefully, offering encouragement and thoughtful suggestions, showing that he valued her dreams and wanted to support her in achieving them. His presence was steady and reassuring, a constant reminder that she was not alone in her journey. He shared his own reflections, discussing ambitions he had long held and the lessons he had learned from past experiences. She listened with genuine interest, offering insights and empathy, and in doing so, they built a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. Their conversations were not just about the present, but also about envisioning a future where both could grow together, supporting each other while maintaining individuality. As the day progressed, they visited a small art gallery tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. The space was filled with paintings and photographs that captured fleeting moments of beauty and emotion. They wandered slowly, discussing the pieces, sharing interpretations, and exploring the ways in which art reflected the human experience. There was a sense of intimacy in these discussions. Each revealed perspectives that were personal yet open, fostering deeper understanding. In one corner of the gallery, they found a painting that spoke to them both. It depicted a quiet scene of a couple walking through a park at sunset, their figures small against the vastness of the sky and landscape. They stood together, observing the painting in silence, each feeling a resonance with the moment it captured. The shared appreciation for the artwork strengthened their bond, as if the painting mirrored the connection they had nurtured over time. After leaving the gallery, they wandered through a nearby street filled with small shops and cafes. The afternoon sunlight created patterns of light and shadow on the pavement, and the city felt alive with movement and possibility. They explored the shops, sampling small treats and discovering little treasures that brought joy in unexpected ways. The simplicity of these experiences, shared together, reinforced the beauty of companionship and the subtle magic in everyday moments. As evening approached, they found a quiet spot on a hill overlooking the city. The sky was painted with hues of orange, pink, and purple, and the city lights began to twinkle below. They sat close together, sharing a blanket, and watched as the sun slowly dipped below the horizon. There was a profound sense of peace in the moment, a recognition of how far they had come and how meaningful their journey together had become. They spoke about challenges they had faced, both individually and as a pair, acknowledging how these experiences had shaped their perspectives and strengthened their connection. There was laughter, moments of reflection, heartfelt conversation that revealed the depth of their understanding and the sincerity of their feelings. Each word, each gesture, each glance conveyed the bond that had grown between them over time. He reached for her hand, holding it gently, and she responded without hesitation. The touch was warm and grounding, a reminder of the trust and affection they shared. In that simple gesture, there was a profound communication of care, commitment, and the desire to be present for each other in every way that mattered. They talked about dreams for the future, not in abstract or pressured terms, but with a sense of curiosity and openness. They imagined trips they might take, projects they could explore together, and small adventures that would enrich their lives. The discussion was filled with optimism, a shared vision of possibility that was grounded in reality yet colored with hope as night fell. The city transformed into a landscape of glowing lights and gentle shadows. They made their way back through the quiet streets, holding hands and savoring the serenity of the evening. There was a sense of completeness, a feeling that their connection had reached a stage where it was both comforting and invigorating, a source of stability and excitement simultaneously. Upon returning to their respective homes, they reflected on the day with gratitude and joy. She wrote in her notebook, capturing the emotions, moments, and subtle nuances that made the day memorable. He thought quietly about the shared experiences, feeling a sense of fulfillment and anticipation for future encounters. The relationship had evolved into something deeply personal, meaningful, and transformative. Over the following weeks, they continued to nurture their bond with care and attentiveness. Each interaction, whether in person or through messages, reinforced the trust, respect, and emotional intimacy that had become the foundation of their connection. They celebrated milestones, supported each other through challenges, and shared laughter in ways that enriched their everyday lives. They explored new parts of the city together, attended local events, and discovered hobbies that sparked joy for both. The relationship was not without its small challenges, moments of doubt, minor misunderstandings, or external pressures, but they faced these together with patience, communication, and a shared commitment to understanding and compromise. Each challenge overcame strengthened their connection, creating resilience and depth. The bond influenced other aspects of their lives as well. They approached work, friendships, and personal projects with a renewed sense of perspective, recognizing the value of connection, empathy, and shared experiences. The presence of the other inspired them to pursue goals with confidence and to appreciate the small joys in everyday life. They began to notice how the relationship had changed them subtly yet profoundly. There was more patience, a deeper understanding of emotions, and a willingness to embrace vulnerability. They valued honesty, authenticity, and the simple joy of being present for each other. The relationship had become a mirror, reflecting their growth and encouraging them to be the best versions of themselves. One evening, They attended a small outdoor concert, the soft music filling the warm night air. Sitting together on a blanket, they swayed gently to the rhythm, occasionally exchanging smiles and quiet words. The music seemed to echo the journey they had taken together, the highs and lows, the laughter and reflection, and the quiet moments of connection. In the music, they found a resonance that mirrored their own experiences and emotions. As the concert ended, they walked home slowly, savoring the night, the city lights, and the shared presence. There was no need for grand declarations or gestures. The bond was evident in the way they moved together, in the ease of conversation. And in the quiet understanding that had become the hallmark of their relationship, they continued to build memories. Each day, adding layers of experience, trust, and affection. The relationship had grown into a source of stability, joy, and inspiration, influencing the way they saw themselves, each other, and the world. The ordinary moments, when shared with care and attention, became extraordinary, filled with significance, warmth, and meaning through all of this. There was an underlying recognition that life could be unpredictable, that challenges could arise. But the strength of their bond provided a foundation for navigating the uncertainties. They approached each day with curiosity, patience, and a willingness to embrace both the joys and difficulties, knowing that together, they could face whatever came their way. The love they had cultivated was not based solely on grand moments or dramatic gestures, but on the accumulation of small, meaningful experiences, shared laughter, and mutual respect. Each interaction, each conversation, each quiet gesture contributed to a deepening of trust and affection. It was a love that grew steadily, naturally, and profoundly. A love that enriched their lives and illuminated the ordinary with beauty and meaning as summer fully settled in. They looked forward to each new day together, cherishing the experiences, conversations, and shared moments that defined their journey. The city, the streets, the parks, the quiet corners of cafes became a backdrop for a love that was genuine, transformative, and enduring. They knew that challenges would arise, but the foundation they had built was strong, resilient, and filled with the promise of continued growth and shared joy in the quiet of their respective homes that night. Both reflected on the journey so far. She added final notes to her notebook, capturing not just events, but the emotions, the subtle gestures, and the profound sense of connection. He reflected silently, acknowledging the depth of feeling, the impact of the relationship, and the anticipation for future moments. The love they shared had become a guiding force, shaping their experiences, their perspectives, and their hearts in ways that would last long into the future.